Hey everybody, what's going on? You can hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can, or if you... Perfect.
Loud and clear, Naran.
Awesome, Lewis. Good to see you, Doug, and Nima's in the house. If Vijay's there, Stephanie's in. If you guys, if any of you can, like I know Doug, you've always got your camera on, which is so appreciated because when I get to see people, it is so much easier for me to talk because I'm such a meeting guy. We're in person meeting people. So anyway, how is everybody doing? You're all good?
Doing good.
Louis, Vincent, bring me up to speed because, you know, I always ask our membership, what are you guys up to? What's new in your world? What's happening? What are you investing in? What are you struggling with? I thought maybe today I need to put the two of you on the chopping block and ask you, what are you working on? What deals are you working on right now in real time?
Oh boy, Vince.
Wow. Okay.
How long is your list? How much time do we have tonight?
It's a 1 hour call and we got a bunch of things to get through. So just give me the close ones. What are you working on? What type of projects?
A development for 42 units, duplexes. It's a development that's occurring, both up and down suites, brand new development. So it's a nice part of town here called the Hamptons in Edmonton. So that's one. On the other side of things, for Metaverse and all that other stuff, we're actually partnering with Marvel Comics. So the actual creators of Spider-Man, the writers, and Taboo. So we're looking at stuff doing the Storyverse, and then there's a bunch of MLAI stuff we're doing. But what I'm excited about is multifamily conference coming up, and I'm flying out tomorrow night to come see everybody, whoever's going to. So that's what I'm busy doing.
Vincent, that is a lot. 40 or 42 up-down duplex conversion development, right?
Yep.
I know that's a big undertaking. And you've got your multiverse stuff. You're building Skynet, as I always say. And Louis, what about you?
Vince, how do you keep track of what verse you're in?
I don't know, man. It's all blends in.
Okay, you know, true story. Hold on, let me introduce. When I was a kid, and Doug, you may or may not get a kick out of this, but when I was a kid, when I was like, I don't know, 7 years old, 8 years old, I thought that if I blinked my eyes, I would shift and go from one metaverse to another. I'd been reading a lot of Spider-Man comic books and Marvel stuff, and I thought I could do that. So every time I got into trouble and my parents would yell at me, I just stand there and I'll blink my eyes, meaning I'm just moving on, people. You can yell all you want. I'm disappearing from your world.
Not a bad skill to have.
Made sense.
That's great.
How do you respond to that? Louis, go ahead.
Well, I'll take it away. So I'm in the middle of a 12-plex redevelopment in Welland. That's a Niagara area in Ontario. And I'm looking for my first property in Florida. Looking for a single detached home in Florida.
Redevelopment. I know you're pushing into the Florida market.
Yes.
And you're also involved in coming down for the multifamily conference.
100%.
100%. That's awesome. If you are joining us today, welcome to the Real Estate Wealth Lab meeting that we do once a month that is open to everybody. And if you are catching this, or maybe on the recording, just know this, that every one of us that are involved at the leadership level, we're all involved running our own businesses, our own companies in the world of real estate in some form or fashion. This is a group. What I love about this group is that it is run by investors, for investors, and of investors, and we are all, you guys have really big roots and capacity and capability in the lane that you drive in. So you guys are powerful people. It's a good group. I know, Doug, you do all kinds of stuff and up north. One of these days we should bring Doug on and let him tell tell our members what Dougie does.
Yeah, need a good story.
Hey, for today's call, let's get started, shall we? Before I move on, just so you know, I know that some of you guys mentioned the multifamily conference. Real Estate Wealth Lab will have a booth at the multifamily conference. We will be present, and if you are in the multifamily conference going on in downtown Toronto, please drop by, shake a hand, bring me a coffee or a tea or a cold drink, or just come over and say hi. We will all be at the booth, including Ken. So let's get started on this. One of the things, guys, that I have actually noticed, and I know you and I have spoken a few times about this, is that I keep running up against people that are struggling with a sense of just being overwhelmed. And I'm not talking about the overwhelm of the average individual that have like a job and like the normal life overwhelm. I'm talking about entrepreneurs and investors who are heavily committed, trying to burn the candle at both ends, and just feeling like they're stretched too far, too thin. And it's something that I know that the two of you butt up against constantly. And I butt up against it constantly. So I put together a very short presentation on the way I coach myself and the people that I coach, the overall big picture of what we do when we hit overwhelm. So I'm going to take 10 minutes and share that with everybody. Okay? Nima, good to see you. I can see a silhouette of you, nothing else. All right. I'm going to share my screen here.
Sounds good.
All right, Vincent, I can see. Can you see my screen? Perfect.
Absolutely.
Mr. Ponton, I believe you have a filter turned on in the video settings. You might want to take
we're trying to, can you hear me, Judge?
I can hear you. I think it's a filter.
It is, and I don't know how to remove it. I've got my assistant here. She's trying to, but I'm prepared to go forward with it. I'm here live. I'm not a cat.
I can see that. I think if you click the up arrow next to this.
So that, ladies and gentlemen, I am sure that person was feeling a sense of overwhelm. That is actually out of a district court meeting in the middle of COVID. I don't know whether any of you, I remember when COVID first started, I ended up in a business call, and it was actually pitching a real estate investment. It was a deal. I would make a presentation to a fund on some projects that I was looking after. And when I showed up, kids have been on my computer, and instead of me showing up as Naran Kulathungam, instead I showed up as Ninja Cat, and I could not get it removed. So anyway, I want to talk today about the feeling of overwhelm, when it feels like you are constantly gasping for air. So let's start here. What does it mean? It means to bury, to drown beneath the huge mass. It's that feeling what you get when you're completely defeated, and it feels like that there's too much of you given to something, and you've got nothing left in the tank for anything else. You guys have had that kind of feeling? Let me ask you this for a minute. How many of you, on a scale of 1 to 10, put it in the chat if you can, and I can't see the chat when I'm in presentation mode, but I'm going to come out of it for a minute. Can you throw in the chat, what do you, 1 being not at all, 10 being complete overwhelm, Where do you feel you are at right now? I'm around a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10. That's what I'm running on the overwhelm scale, right? Hugh's 8 out of 10. So vitamins, it's at 10. So it's interesting to notice that all of us, the lowest is 5 out of 10. It would be great if we could run around 4, or like I find that if I'm running around 4 out of 10, 3 out of 10, I have huge capacity for new endeavors, and I have huge capacity. Doug says he's 7 out of 10, but it feels normal. That's correct. We get used to running at a certain level. Isn't that true? Like go on a vacation. Have you noticed you got a few days off and all of a sudden you get sick? Because it's like, I've got time to get sick now. So let me go back to my screen again here. So that feeling, like I noticed that when I'm around 3 or 4 out of 10, my creativity level goes up, and I'm able to engage with the world in a much better fashion. When I'm operating 7, when I start bumping up against 8 out of 10, I go, I got to do something or I'm going to be in trouble. That's just my gauge. So how do you know? Well, let's ask this. What's the impact of running at 10 out of 10 or at 8 out of 10 like I'm running right now? What is the impact? There's an impact to me emotionally. And you will see this in yourself when you pause. The emotional, your sense of being not just overwhelmed, but your sense of your switch, your trigger to get angry gets a lot shorter. Does that make sense? Or sometimes you can be a little bit more emotional than normal. And the other telltale sign of this is when you've got when you react to something in a much bigger, with a much bigger emotion than you normally would. It's kind of like your kid says, "Oh, Dad, I can't do that," and you blow up at him as if he's just, done the unthinkable. So when you look at it, watch your emotions. The other thing that gets attacked when you're running 8, 9, 10 out of 10 is that your actionable items, what I mean by that is the things that you can actually execute on become overwhelming, and even small tasks start to feel really heavy. Now, each of you are going to be slightly different from each other. So ask yourself this question. What are your initial indicators that tell you that you're heading towards trouble? What's the initial indicator? For me, my initial indicators tend to be, I get edgy, my anger level goes up, it shows up as anger. And then the other thing that can happen is I start to feel down. I start to feel emotionally down, like not I don't want to use the word depressed, but just feel down. And usually I'm not a feeling down kind of guy. So when that happens, I know that I need to change my actions, my thoughts, and my behaviors if I want to correct the ship. The other thing that for me is a huge indicator is how I feel, the first feelings I have when I wake up. For me, when I sleep, a lot of times if I'm overwhelmed, it shows up in dreams. And while I don't always or most of the time remember my dreams, the emotional result of my dream is left lingering in my body. So when I wake up, one of the first checks I do is, how am I feeling emotionally? What's going on? So here's what you can do about it. And that is to check your alignment with your vision and with who you want to be. Vincent, you'll know this. In our, Richie Dolan will often ask, he asked us this question a few weeks ago. It was, what kind of week do you want to have? I'm paraphrasing it, I'm killing it. But what kind of week do you, what week worth living? And it's a great question because it allows me to align myself and what I'm doing to the outcome that I really want. So when you're feeling overwhelmed, one of the first thing I do is to face it. Don't ignore it. We are very good at ignoring it. We're very good at saying, I'll get to that later. I found that the more committed I become and the more involved I become, the more things I've got going on, the more times in the week I stop and I do what's called a mind dump. I just sit down and I do it viscerally instead of typing it on or something like that or thinking about it. I actually handwrite it on a piece of paper. Write everything that's in my mind. Write it on a piece of paper. Because what happens is when I do that, I start facing the thing that is bugging me and I start giving it a name. I name it. The third thing to do is to evaluate it to see, is this really a problem or not? And should this be dealt with? And the last thing I do is to categorize it. So let me get to each one point. I'm going to go a little bit deeper on each of these. By the way, I put this picture of a bullock cart in place because I remember as a kid, like 4 or 5 years old, at my grandparents' house in Sri Lanka, a bullock cart would roll up the laneway with 2 bulls on it, and it would be pulling behind it in the wagon a pile of coconuts. So it was a guy selling coconuts door to door, and he'll pull up in a bullock cart. And while my grandmother would buy the coconuts, I was really interested in the cart and the bulls. And how did he control these 2 huge animals? And how did the wheels work? And the wheels were actually just wooden wheels. And I noticed something, that when they came up the laneway, the wheels of the cart would always go back into the place where they've always been. There were always these 2, like it's like a tire tracks kind of a thing on a track. There were these like a curvature in a groove. That's the word I'm looking for. A groove on the ground, and the cartwheels would always fit right into it. And where that groove went was often determined by where the bulls wanted to walk. They would choose the ground that was the sturdiest and the softest and that was good for them to walk on. And that often would determine the course of the grooves. What happens in our lives is that we have a certain way of walking and a certain way that the wheels of our life get put down into grooves. And in order to get out of that groove, you have to face the monster under the bed. What I mean by that is, do you remember, Louis, you may or may not, I don't think you have ever been scared in your life, right? Well,
Sure.
Sure, that's what we're going with, right? But Louis, let me ask you this. Did you ever have monster scares when you were a kid?
Absolutely.
Okay. By the way, if people would notice that Louis is sitting in front of, behind his, on the wall is this greenish blue, I think you said it was from East Asia or something. It's got this picture on the wall. But to me, Louis, feels to me like you are like on Narcos. You are a drug cartel dude, and you're coming to us somewhere from South America, somewhere, name undisclosed.
What's your point, Aran?
All right. So, Louis, when you have you ever had that feeling that like there's a monster under the bed or in the closet?
Absolutely.
How did you overcome that?
Oh boy. I put my sheets over my head so I can't see anything.
Good. First thing, hiding it, right?
Yep.
Did you ever get brave enough to stick your head under the bed?
Absolutely. Confront it head on.
And what happens to the monster when you looked under the bed?
There's nothing to fear but fear itself.
There it is, Master Yoda. So the act of bravery of looking at the thing that scares you the most, what it does is it shrinks the monster down. And you learn to be calm in the middle of a storm. It is a crucial element to learn. That when things go wrong, you've got to maintain a sense of calmness and face the monster under the bed. Now, what can really help here is a partner, a business partner can often help, a friend can help, a coach can help. And let me just underline this. I really should have put this in a different bullet point. Coaches help in a way that your friend cannot. Because coaches are they're not there to make you feel good. They're not there to hold your hand. They're there to help you get the outcome that you are committed to. And so a coach who is seasoned, who has been through what you've gone through and has the experience and or the educational knowledge to help you, they are capable of doing far more than a friend or a partner can. So whenever you get overwhelmed, get somebody in your corner, get a coach that's going to help you desensitize things and ratchet things down so that you can execute on the things that matter most. The second thing to do is to name it. So when you've got a whole pile of stuff going on, I will actually name it. The nomenclature matters. Names describe the relationship you have. I've noticed myself now, I'm listening to my voice. And sometimes they'll say things like, oh, I was so annoyed. And I've said, well, don't be annoyed. And they look at me like, what? Don't be annoyed. Because the words we use to describe our experience, not only can it liberate us, but it also has the capacity to enslave us. So be very, very careful with the words that you use. Names create relatability. They create a way for us to relate to the monster. So just look at all the things that you're doing and say, what is it? Name it, put it on a paper. Because by doing that, you get to create a massive list of everything. Now it's out of your head. Now, one of the things I really have to credit Richard for this, Dolan, because he said to me, he said, take only 3 to 5 things every week out of that list that you must crush and get those done. Because oftentimes, I know, like Doug, the few times that I've spoken to you, I know when I talk to you that you got more things going on most of the time, not always, most of the time you got more things going on than you actually have the capacity to execute on. You cannot win with time. You can't change time. So evaluate, are you overcommitted? And if everything on your list or everything that you've got to do is staring back at you saying, it's got to get done now, elevate, increase your standard of what is important. And because you cannot do everything. Once you've done that, once you've identified it, you've named it, and you've asked yourself whether you're overcommitted or not, and you've committed to something, now categorize it. Where does this belong? How important is it? What does it serve? Are you the best person to do it, manage it? Like, am I really the best person to manage this reno? Or should I get somebody else to manage it? Is my time better spent somewhere else? Should I be acting as a leader here? Or should I be acting as an on-site manager here? Or should I be the guy picking up the hammer? Some of the times, the things that limit us most and hold us back is because we won't put down the hammer to take the time to get somebody else to do that job. Because you use your time for what is best spent by you. So perform what is called a commitment audit. List it, identify it, evaluate it, categorize it. Once you've done that, then you can actually put it into your calendar. And those of you who are in our coaching class, or your members, if you remind me or bring this to my attention again, I will actually share with you an Excel spreadsheet I create and I use in order to quantify what my tasks are and which ones are most important to me, so that it becomes more of a scientific mathematical journey than a feeling-based journey. So I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to come back to our Zoom meeting. I'm going to pause. I know, guys, any feedback for me, or if you,
So it's interesting. I love this chat on overwhelm. What resonated is actually when so I'm functioning 10 out of 10. What throws me off is the 11 out of 10. So there's a point, and if I'm actually below where I'm constantly functioning, I feel like, hey, there's something off, right? And my wife can see it. She'll see me fidgeting and restless. That's just me. So if you're usually functioning at a level, and that's your sweet spot, I typically stay there. The 11 is where, if there's overwhelm coming on, interesting, what we actually instilled, what actually works well for us is, me and my wife have been together 27 years. So if there's someone knows me better, that's her. She probably knows better than I do. So I usually go have that discussion with her, and
27 years? That's how old Lewis is.
I know, man. I wish I was as young as Lewis. Look at the hair he got. Like, it's good hair. But usually I connect, I go and we have a chat with my wife, and she actually helps me break it down. And it's exactly what you said. You categorize it, but you start working through it and taking off the layers to get to the point where, what is it that actually is causing that issue, where I feel that overwhelm, and you start going to it. And eventually, when you get to it, you're like, really? When you see it through someone else's eyes, why was I on that? So, like, why was I so focused on it? So you dial it back, and 9 times out of 10, you come up with a solution on how to deal with it. Or, you know what, it's something I shouldn't have put so much emphasis on, but that's the one that actually tipped it over. So recategorize it, reprioritize it. And sometimes it's about, you know what, I can't just deal with that issue. I got to get help with it. And typically I'm the type of person that loves to do it alone. Not now. Now it's like, who can help me get over that hurdle, right?
Right.
So I see a lot of similarities of what you've done and what I do, which is pretty cool. But I call a friend. That's what I do, right? So I don't know, Lewis, what do you do?
I don't know where to start. I love that presentation, Naran. Thank you. It's something that everyone deals with it. I'm no stranger to it. Running and operating a few businesses in addition to my real estate portfolio, it gets overwhelming every day. But something that I've been aware of and present to for a very long time, that I've been continuously training myself on, is whenever there's an issue or a circumstance that comes up that presents some type of overwhelm or anxiety, I immediately think of ways to turn it into a positive or an advantage, and take whatever type of risk that has been created, and how can I now shape that to something that I can use to continue to move forward. Granted, there are times where, something will happen that there is not a lot of ways that it can happen. Some things are just, shitty luck. But if you really get down to the brass tacks of it, most things, and if you have that mindset of maintaining a positive outlook, then you put yourself in position to win, because you're thinking about a win as opposed to, how much this sucks. So that really helps me with overwhelm, and I'm able to get through a lot more, as opposed to letting things get to me and attack me. And I found it so interesting how you asked us to rate from, 1 to 10, where we are with overwhelm. To each person, to each their own. Everyone's rating to one another it could mean, nothing. It depends on the individual's level or threshold of what they're actually doing or, taking on. Someone sitting on the couch watching the Three Stooges all day in their underwear could be underwhelmed under 10, right? But to another person, that could be a complete waste of time and not even hitting the radar, right? So I find that very interesting as a perspective as well. So that's my take on it.
So I got a question for you, Lewis. What can you give me an example of when you see something that is negative that you've turned it around?
I've recently had an employee that that was injured, could not perform any of their tasks anymore that they've been performing for many years. So I had to completely change their environment, and now it's turned into a situation where they've created so much more bandwidth for me now. I'm able to hire another 2 or 3 people and take on a substantial amount of work. But for the first few weeks, I was of the mindset of, now it's still going to be a burden on the payroll. Where's this what activities is this person going to achieve? How are they going to contribute? But just enough persistence and kind of thought process on the situation it's a different company now, 3 months later.
To me, it's that one word that you just said, and it was that mindset. It's that mindset. Yeah. That's the key word there. Because even when I'm looking at it, it's if you feel overwhelmed, there's some non-negotiables, by the way.
Yes.
If you feel overwhelmed, take that break, take that half an hour. It's like, geez, you know what? Just exit the room for a second and then re-enter with the right mindset of wanting to solve it, right? Wanting to get that win. But if you don't take that break, you might just be going down a rabbit hole, right? So you have to find yourself, catch yourself, if you're in that mindset, to just say, okay, wait a second, let me just step back, come at it with a clear mind of attacking it again and trying to solve it. So I think it's that take a break moment that you feel like, okay, wait a second, that's going to help. Some non-negotiables, by the way, family's one. Like if I feel like now I'm sacrificing family over getting this thing done and it's a non-negotiable and I'm struggling with it, I'm like, I pause right there. I'm like, what's more important? And typically I stop the work. I'm like, okay, let me take the break. Let me deal with this. Then I'll come back, right? That just levels you, resets you. It makes sure your value system's still in place where you're not jeopardizing one over the other, right? So that's the other thing.
So let me ask you this then. What allows you to get stronger with your mindset or develop a sense of grit?
It's over time, actually, by the way, because what I used to do, is I'd actually prioritize work over family all the time. I used to always do that. But enough lessons learned. And when you put things in its place and when you put the value in its place, what does truly, at the end of it, why are we doing any of this? Who's it for? What do I want to achieve? And who do I want to achieve it with? When you put all that stuff in place and you relook at the issue that you're trying to deal with, then you just bounce it out and you know eventually which one to pick. And so it's just knowing what you want out of life and what decisions you should be making, which ones you shouldn't be negotiating on. Now, there's things that you're like, wait a second, maybe you could have a chat with my wife and just move it out like 15 minutes or half an hour or the kids or something like that, just so I could get over it. There's things that happen like that. But that's all part of communicating, right? So
it is. Lewis, you were going to say something?
For me, I have to add personal health is up there as well with family, neck and neck, because if you're not at 100% or close to it, everything else is going to suffer as well. And when I made that change a few years ago, it's like night and day. More energy, more bandwidth to get things done, clear conscience on different things to solve problems and all that stuff. So definitely personal health.
Those are very good points, guys, because family, personal health, it's funny, as entrepreneurs and as real estate investors, the culture sometimes, not always, but sometimes we can find ourselves thinking that getting the next door, getting that project off the ground is more important than the very reasons why we're doing the project for, right? It's the tail wagging the dog.
Absolutely.
One of the things that if you're listening to this call and you want to come in, Doug or Hugh, I know both of you guys, I can see you, that's why I'm picking on you on my screen. If you want to come into the call, or you want, I know, Doug, that you do a lot, you're an entrepreneur yourself. If you have something to say to this conversation, just put your hand up, I'll bring you in. Same for you, Hugh. But yeah, you know, when it comes to family, here's one of the things that I learned from an old, who was actually a senior pastor of a large church. He wanted me to come work with him, and he taught me this. He said, whenever you've got to work and it comes at the sacrifice or the cost of your family, you tell your people that you're working with, I was planning to do this with my family, but because this is important for what we're committed to, I've delayed that. Then the people who you work with are brought on notice that you are sacrificing something that is precious for the benefit of the company or the church. But the opposite is even more important. When you have stuff to do at work and you are with your family and you know you've got to sacrifice something for work in order to get that done, tell your family, hey kids, I got this going on. And I feel like initially I wanted to be there doing this because I made a commitment, but I changed my commitment there because I want to be with you because you're important. Because otherwise, the family never realizes what you're sacrificing, and work never realizes what you're sacrificing. And the sacrifice shows your level of commitment to a cause. And by not communicating it, you rob those people from the love that you actually have for them. So anyway.
And the experience that they could have went on that journey with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. Yeah. Good. Gentlemen, in the interest of time, I want to shift gears here. I know that we want to have a chat today as well. By the way, Ken was supposed to be here. If you're here, he was supposed to actually have a present. He was good. We had a structure for our meeting today. And at the last minute, because we are all investors, he's got, I think, 3 properties that have had water damage done all at similar time periods. So he was just swamped. And if you're an investor, you get it. So we said we would run the show today. We got you, cowboy. So here we are.
Someone gave me around the keys. No holds barred now.
Gentlemen, we want to talk today about a little bit about joint venturing, correct?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Because money moves, and money moves in not so mysterious ways if you know how it moves. And money will always move to safety. It will move to returns, but more importantly, it moves to safety. So, Louis, why don't you take us away down this conversation, and we'll see where we end up. Gentlemen, ladies, we have no agenda for this part of the conversation. We are simply chatting away here.
So thanks, Narayan. For me, what comes to mind when I'm looking to either raise capital for a project or provide some capital for a project are 4 or 5 kind of pillars, so to speak, that I will make sure are in line with the capital I'm either going to be receiving or providing for a project. So it's, what is my main outcome going to be? What is that focus, and what does it look like? Almost keeping the end in mind first. So what does a roadmap look like? Do I have a plan in place to get that roadmap started and continuing and ended. So the terms, so to speak. All right. Also making sure that I'm being as specific as possible on what I'm doing and with whom. Again, that kind of relates to the terms, but making sure those are spelled out. What team is involved is another one that's top of my list. So if it's a project that I'm putting together, who am I doing it with? Who's taking care of what tasks? Making sure that's identified so that there are no overlaps in energy spent or bandwidth. Everyone has a task to take care of, and communication is maintained. And also making sure that, along with focus, making sure you play in an area of expertise to focus on something. If you're providing capital or receiving capital, you want to make sure that you're going down a path that you have expertise in, so you can see the roadblocks that are going to come up, mitigate them, and deal with them before you get to them, because you're dealing with capital and you need to be responsible for it. So those are a couple things that come to mind when I'm involved in joint venture deals.
All right. Vincent, what about yourself?
Mine is making sure that we have the end goal in mind, which is a win-win situation for both partners. So that's where I start from. So I actually start from the end. Say, hey, how is this a benefit for them? How is it a benefit for myself? Because you both got to be happy in this deal, right? You got to make sure that you structure it properly. To me, when you understand how the other person's approaching the JV as a partnership, what they want out of it, you could best serve them by understanding their position. And then you also speak from that position, because now you understand what you need to bring to make that happen, right? Or if there's a misalignment, right away there's a misalignment, that it might not work. It might work, it might not work, right? So you get some of that stuff out of the way right from the beginning. Now, if we could both agree on what that joint venture is going to look like and what's required, and you both agree on that, great. The rest of it's really semantics now. Because you've agreed in principle what you need to do to make each other happy. Now, they say devil's in the details, right? Of course, you got to get into the details. But now what you've done is you got agreement on how you want to make this thing a success. We're both on the same page. This is what the outcome is. This is what I'm going to bring. This is what you're going to bring. And then you dial it back and get into the details of, really decision makers, who's deciding what roles and responsibilities are we going to play? What are the expectations that we need of each other to make this thing work? And so once we're done outlining all that stuff, then it's really putting a pen on paper, right? And making sure that it's documented and we all agree to those, that aspect of it. But really, when you're speaking from the heart and you're speaking to, and then Niran, you said it right at the beginning, you can enter a room, and when you have conversations, you can speak to how you can help that person out. The value is right there when you realize, in this relationship, I can provide you this value. This is how I can help you out. Of course, it has to be a win-win. But once you can identify that, and Ryan, you're the best person that can identify it. I actually want you to speak to that, because I'm going to be asking you that. But once you could identify that and come from that place of serving, that's where the wins come in. So to me, that's how I approach it.
Okay. Perfect. It's interesting because I coach clients on how to invest, how to attract capital. Mm-hmm. It's something that I've been able to do almost like without actually I had to learn how to invest in real estate. I had to take courses on how to do multifamily property, right? But the capital attraction kind of fell into my lap. And it's interesting because, when I listen to the two of you guys, you when I say you, I'm pointing, but you guys won't know who I'm pointing to. Lewis, you're very much a plan guy. This is how the plan is going to work. And so when you start off with your joint venture attraction methodology, you're speaking in terms of plan. Vincent, you on the other hand, you're very much an end result guy. So you start off with, hey, this is going to be the benefit from you 5 years from now, right? And so it's not that one is better than the other, it's that both are needed. And if you don't have both in your joint venture, for lack of a better word, your presentation, right, of who you are in deals, if you're looking to attract capital, and those of you who do a lot of properties, if you need to be joint venturing, some of you guys do it. I know you do it all with your own capital, which is great. It's not just because you can scale up more with joint venture, but because a personal bias, not that it's correct, it's my personal bias. I think that if I'm not helping other people get rich and wealthy and in a safe and safe method, then I am derelict of my duty. I have certain skills and talents that I'm wasting if I do not leverage that and help other people.
Noran,
yes.
Would you say that's why you're so proficient at raising capital?
No. So there are certain things about me that are really efficient at raising capital, and there are certain things about me that are not good at raising capital. What I would love to do, and this is just me talking, and if there's enough interest, I would love to actually get the two of you, myself and Ken, together into a room and how to create joint venture capital, because each of you come to it from a different perspective that is crucially needed. And if you can forge those four different methodologies together, you can weave them together, you will have a really strong approach. So my approach is not the end result. It is not the process. I need help with articulating the process. I have to work at that. I sit down with spreadsheets and PowerPoint presentations, and it takes me a lot of time to pull that together. Whereas my guess is for you guys, it's kind of like easier. Like it kind of just flows out of you naturally. Here's what I'm good at.
Here's interesting though, because I think it's how we approach it, which is actually neither of them are right or wrong. It's just unique on how we do it. So mine's actually, and I'm interested to see how this lands with you guys. My purpose is all people are inspired to get what they want in life. So coming from the place of inspiration and wanting to make an impact in other people's lives, I come from a place of how do I want to impact your life 5 years down the road? What's the end result? If that matches with what me and you want to venture in, then I work out all the details from that. And it's because maybe how I approach it, right? Now, I'm interested to understand what your guys' purposes are and if that matches the way you approach your joint ventures. I'm just curious because that just popped up for me.
Lewis, you want to go first?
I think it's a huge driver for me. For me, it's been
What's your purpose?
A bit of a process to be of service to people, to help people get what they want. And that was not always the case. I was for a lot, and still am, but it's not number one, always more of a numbers guy. And the bottom of this, what do the numbers at the bottom of the spreadsheet look like? That was important to me, right? But now that is not priority. And what that shift has done to me, it's allowed me to gain a lot more clarity on deals, how I interact with people, how I negotiate, what's important in the deal. And it's resulted in so much more business. And not only have I applied it to real estate, but to my businesses as well. And it's resulted in more sales because I'm putting the customer or the client first. And that wasn't always the case for me. So, being of service for me is number one.
Nice. Noran.
So my purpose is more that all people live in the light, that they face the darkness within and live in the light. And so whenever I'm in a room, let's say I'm in a room like you, Louis, Vincent, you will see this in real time on the weekend. When I'm talking to people, I am looking for, where is the darkness? It's like I have a German Shepherd dog that is highly skilled, highly trained, military trained under life, gunfire, can do all kinds of crazy stuff. She's a man tracking dog. I know that when I walk down the road with her and she'll look and she'll go, and I go, it's all right, leave it alone. And she's always asking me, boss, you need me to take this guy out? No, leave him alone, leave him alone, leave him alone, right? Because that's her purpose, that's her design. For me, when I'm in a room, I am looking for who is in pain, what is their pain, how can I shine light into that pain, how can I help them face that pain, how can I then step into the darkness with them and from within be able to turn them and help them walk into the light. So that's the approach I bring even to joint venturing. So when I find people don't joint venture. People joint venture with me because they have capital that wants to be placed and all the normal reasons. But underneath it all, there's a reason that there is some sort of pain and redemption that is articulated in my being. And they attach themselves to me and me to them. And together we walk into the light. And so my joint venture partners become friends, they become family. They're the people that call me in the middle of the night when things in their lives don't work out, when there's a family struggle, when there's a death in the family. I show up at people's funerals. Every weekend I'm at a wedding or a funeral, regardless of outside of joint venturing. Like I am at a wedding or a funeral every weekend because it comes from my pastoring background. It comes from my theological training. It comes from my upbringing, but that's what I do. So when it comes to joint venturing, the capital is not what is important to me. What's important to me is, how can I help you live in the light? How can I walk with you? And I will step into the darkest place with you and if we can't get out of it, I'm okay. I will stand in the darkness with you and I will help you walk into the light. So when I raise capital, people are initially attracted to me and I to them because we want to overcome our darkness. How's that?
Beautiful.
Wow.
I think the best way to sum that up, and I think it's true for every serious real estate investor, you can always turn a partner into a friend, but you cannot necessarily turn a friend into a real estate partner.
No, you cannot. And those of you who are trying to make friends into partners, it's often difficult. So there's a question I often ask people. I've started asking people, and when people come to me, I go, "Hey," so Vincent came to me, I'd say, like, "Vincent, Doug, are you looking to strengthen our friendship, or are you looking to engage with me in a commercial business relationship? Which is it? I need to know." Right? Otherwise, what happens often is that we go down a certain pathway thinking that this is leading to a commercial or a business relationship, when in reality it's moving towards a friendship relationship, which is fine. But I just need to know which highway I'm on with that person. So, yeah. But
it's pretty deep conversations, boys.
Wow. See what happens when we just go on.
But that's the thing. If you notice, all three of us came from a place of service.
Yep.
Yes.
Number one.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Maybe not at first. Right? That was my case, right? not at first, but kind of seen it enough times and going through the motions and well, it's not funny, but for me, the best part of it is that I'm so much happier now because I love what I do. And it's because I'm helping people, and I'm not putting the numbers or myself first, but I'm contributing and I'm doing something. I get to do it with great people. I get to meet new people, and that makes me so much happier in what I'm doing. You can't beat it.
When you get that clarity with purpose,
Yeah.
when you get that grounded inside of you, and you know what the driving force is, the rest is actually pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it lowers the overwhelm so much.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It does. It does. For example, on Tuesday, like you guys know how busy I am. All weekend I will be at the conference. On Tuesday, I'm clearing my calendar to go help a friend of mine move. He's one of my mortgage brokers I work with. I'm helping him move because he needs help. Is this the best use of my time? Absolutely no, it is not. But I'm doing it because that's what is needed and necessary.
Yeah.
Right? Anyway, I don't know where to go from here, guys.
Time check, because there's one more topic still to talk about.
Yes. What is it? Go take it away, Vincent. You're on.
Okay, so I want to know who's showing up for the multifamily conference this weekend that we can meet up in person.
Drum roll.
I don't know whether anybody from our group showing up.
I don't know. We'll be there. I'll be there.
No, I don't think so. It's a pretty expensive conference to go to as well.
Yeah.
It is. Who's local to? Sorry.
Toronto.
So who's actually local to Toronto there? Is anyone in this call local to Toronto?
I don't think so. Maybe a few folks, but.
There we go. There's people putting it in the chat.
Oh. Yeah, Doug, you, Mark,
Doug.
they're in the zone.
Okay, perfect. So I am, and I'll be at the conference. Christine, there you go. Christine, you're going to have to come say hi to us. We'll be at the booth. Sure.
We'll be the four good-looking guys.
Of course.
I'll get my haircut and then I'll show up. Okay, so you know what? There's a couple of things. If you can make it and see us, great. If not, we'll definitely cover off how that weekend went in our next call. And we'll promise to do that and promise to bring some learnings back and what we connected with and what we learned. Also, for the folks that are in Toronto, we're going to have something really special that we're going to be doing in the future. Right, Noran?
We have a live event coming up around the week of June 20th. So watch for that. We're putting it together right now. So next week we'll have stuff out for you.
Enough of the digital stuff. We need to meet people in person.
Oh man, I am such a people person.
Yeah, and so we want to see you guys live. So what we're going to do is we're going to commit to getting you a date where we can meet up. We'll make sure it's middle of the week so we don't impact anyone's weekends. And we'll tell you ahead of time because we'd love to meet up with you. If we can nail down the dates as well, I'll fly out for that as well. So I want to make sure if I could do that, I'll come from Edmonton to Toronto to meet everyone in person. So I'd love to do that.
And in time, hopefully something out in Alberta, Vince.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta plant a flag there. So lots to come.
Exactly. Noran, if it's okay, just doing a time check here. We got what? Do we have a minute left here?
Yes.
We have 1 minute left.
Okay, let's open up the lines. Do anyone have any questions of us that you want to talk about? Anything?
Yeah, we covered a lot tonight.
Interesting topics. anything you guys want to chat about, just drop it in the
Oh,
conversation.
Hugh wants to come in. Can
Yeah. Well, I just want to say that was amazing, guys. I just really appreciate all the deep stuff, and it's really, I think, so important right now because I think a lot of us have been. I know for myself, you haven't seen me on the calls lately. I've just been struggling with an awful lot of stuff to get through, but it's just great to have these kind of conversations and have that kind of like moral support. You know what I mean? Like to know that we're all in it together, kind of thing, and we all. It's so important, and I think especially like I know a lot of people doing real estate have been struggling the last 7 or 8 months, all kinds of things going on, but this is just amazing. So I just want to say thank you. And I just think one of the things that I've been learning as well the last few months is practicing gratitude as well, like just being grateful for everything that we have. Because I think sometimes when we've got an entrepreneurial mindset, it's always we want to get to that next thing. We always want to get there and get there and get there, and we don't have enough. And I think sometimes we forget about all the stuff we have achieved. So I've been really trying to focus on that too, because I think when you do that, that kind of gives you a sense of grounding, and it doesn't make and it makes things seem a bit less daunting. So anyway.
Absolutely, Hugh. You know what? That's one thing I actually really appreciate of Doug. Doug, honestly, shows up in the calls, and he's actually very forthcoming on, hey, Doug, what are you doing next? Guys, I got a lot going on. I'm taking a pause right now because I got a lot going on. He's very clear and crisp with that. And I appreciate that because then I know how Doug's coming and how he's showing up. He's there listening, and when he's ready to go, he's ready to go. But even with you, Hugh, what you said there was critical. Why are we running for the next door? When we're ready for the next door, that's when we need to execute. Doesn't mean we need to go get it now. Listen, the cycle comes, cycle goes. There's always a time and place, but you got to be ready. You got to be ready to receive it. You got to ready to execute it. When the time's ready, it's going to happen. Don't put that additional stress on you when you don't need to. Mental health, family health, personal health, all that stuff's way more important than a number. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well said.
Yeah.
Hugh, if you when you were talking, I just felt like if you got a lot on your shoulders and you want to jump on a call with one of us, just let us know.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I might do. I mean, things are kind of like they're getting there. There's light at the end of the tunnel now, but I might.
But don't do it alone. Okay. One of the mistakes that real estate that I have made is that when I'm going through stuff that's really challenging, I try and muscle through it on my own. And then I start asking advice from people that I feel I don't need to impress. And usually those are people that I know way more about. Like they're not at my level when it comes to investing or entrepreneurship. And those are not the best people to reach out to. You want to reach out to guys that have a few more scars than you do, right? That have been in the battle a little bit longer, because we get it, right? And we still go there again and again. So if you want to reach out to any one of us, just send us an email, tell me who you want to talk to, and we'll set it up. Okay.
Will do. Thanks, guys. That's great.
Doug has his hand up. Doug, why don't you go, and then I'll sign back in again. Here. Go ahead, Doug. Let's unmute. Ask to unmute.
There, I'm here. Yeah, Hugh, just a further comment on that. I am up, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I've had my moments where life has been really dark. The pile has been high, and I haven't been able to see my way out of it. And ultimately, you're the guy stuck in the middle, and you got to find your way out. But having the opportunity to talk to others that have their own set of battle scars, that's worth something. They can give you a little bit of direction, a little bit of hope, and help you see that there is light at the end of the tunnel. It's not necessarily a freight train, and you will make it through.
Absolutely. Thanks, Doug, for that.
Yeah.
I'm going to add one more. I love what you said there. I'm going to add one more thing to it. And this is the rule family. This is the rule family here. And we've been mentored, and we've been blessed to be mentored by Richard Dolan, which actually taught us Jeff, judgment, ego, and fear. And that's what Jeff stands for. When you come here, there's no judgment. Put this egos aside. If you have a fear, put the fear aside and just come talk to us. We're all here to help. This is the Rule family. I can't say that enough. So to me, what's more important is to have that conversation, reach out to any one of us. We're here to help, whichever way we can.
The one thing that I've noticed about us in the Western world, and I come from an Eastern world, from Sri Lanka. So one of the things I've noticed about the Western world is that in the Western world, we do not like to face grief or suffering well. And there's a process to that. And when it becomes magnified in the real estate investment world, because everything becomes magnified because now we are leveraging time and money. So those are magnifiers of situations. And then, so one of the things that we as investors can do, as real estate investors, whatever lane you're driving in, whatever area you're playing in, one of the things that we can do is we can just come in and stand with other people who are in dark spots in their walk. Just the act of standing with somebody brings light and a load. You don't necessarily have to do or say the right thing. One of the things that I've kind of taught my kids is this saying. It's called walk across the room. And that is that when you're in a room and if you see somebody that's by themselves or somebody you think something is not right, walk across the room. Take the initiative, walk across, say hello. And it's something that I've practiced. And as investors, if we can practice that, we can walk across the room and just stand with our brother or sister. We shoulder this together, and together, because we're not in it just to make money. We're in it to make a life and an experience. So it's giddy up time. Lewis, you've got the last words, my friend.
Actually, Naran, there's some.
No, you do not have the last
words.
No.
There's questions in the chat.
Oh, sorry. What are the questions in the chat?
Here.
Can you tell me more about your group, as I actually don't know
Christine.
about you? Okay. Christine, how do you get started with no money down? I don't know how you get started with no money down other than by borrowing some money from somebody. Let me just, okay. Our group, Real Estate Wealth Lab, we are a group of entrepreneurs. We are a group of real estate investors. Each of us have a specialty and a skill. Ken Klanaftikas, who's not with us today, he's an operational whiz. Lewis is really, really good at development and building. I think, Lewis, your company has done over $1 billion worth of contracts and renovations. 1 billion with a B.
My business and prior ventures, yes.
Yes.
Just over $1 billion.
So you got a lot of experience.
And overwhelm.
And overwhelm, right? So, Vincent is the master, and you guys have to correct me on this if I'm not just saying it correctly. Vincent is the master, not just of real estate, but he specializes in development, and most of all, in the whole metaverse, crypto, all that kind of stuff. Vincent's there, and I know, Lewis, both of you are in metaverse as well, right? My specialty is really multifamily investing, but that's how it shows up. But really, my specialty is I build investors. That's what I do. I build investors, I build entrepreneurs and small businesses. So in our REWL family, we have that's just 4 of the, there's 6 cool cats in there. What we do is we help investors invest to place money safely. We provide the education. We provide opportunities to do that. We do it not because we ourselves are trying to be engaged in the community, because we're ourselves investing. So we have knowledge, we have intelligence, and we have leadership development. Those are the three criteria. If you want to join us, if somebody, and Lisa or somebody can throw the email in our.
Yep, it's in the chat. It's in the chat.
Yeah.
The website's
Perfect.
there, and also the email address.
Website's there. This call is free once a month. And then we have a $9 and a $49 package. The $49 package includes coaching as well, in a group coaching session that we do. And we got more things coming down the pipe, so to speak. We got stuff happening. So does that encapsulate what you're looking for? So we'd love, if you're not a member, join as a member.
And do you ever have the need for private money? And the answer was yes to that question as well.
Yes, we always have need for private money, but absolutely.
Yep. Okay, I think that's all the questions, Ran. Thank you for taking the time.
Lewis,
Perfect.
you're on.
So what do we have coming up? We got the multifamily conference this weekend. I think the call that we're going to have in June is going to be fantastic, because like Vincent mentioned briefly earlier, I think we can offer some type of call on a State of the Union and bring some of the information that we're going to collect from the multifamily conference forward and share it with everybody in June. So I'm really looking forward to that. And the live event that we're going to be sharing more information on. When was that, Naran? June 20th, around then?
Last week in June, yes.
Last week in June?
21st is where we're scheduled for right now, but I don't want to announce. I'm not announcing that date. You did not hear it.
No,
right.
You didn't hear it from us.
You didn't. Don't tell Ken.
And also,
Ken, we said anything.
And we've also posted in the chat the email address if you'd like to get a hold of us, the website, and we've also just posted the REWL trial for 14 days. So please give that a click, check us out, learn more, and welcome to the family. And thank you for joining us tonight. Been a great call. I hope you found it very informative. And until next time, thank you and good night, good afternoon, good morning. What do you think? Naran, Vincent,
everyone.
thank you.
Thanks,
Good night,
everyone.
everybody.
See you next time. Bye for now.